Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Legal Gym Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, we're going to be talking about how to pick the best, most profitable, most trademarkable name for your business. And for the show notes for today's episode, which will include all of the links and resources for everything that I'm going to be discussing today, make sure you head on over to hawthornelaw.net/28. That's hawthornelaw.net and then the number 28. All right, now let's go ahead and dive in. Before we get into the amazing content for today's episode, I wanted to let you know about a new training that I'm working on. I'm going to be teaching my 4R framework to get your trademarks registered quickly and easily. In addition, I'll be sharing the top 3 mistakes that I see online entrepreneurs make that can sabotage their brand and even force them into bankruptcy. So if you want to sleep better at night knowing that your brand is protected, you definitely don't want to miss this training. Just head on over to hawthornelaw.net/trademark to get notified when the training is live. One more time, that's hawthornelaw.net/trademark. And don't forget, everyone who attends this training is going to get a free gift. So if you're an entrepreneur who is building a brand online, this is one training you don't want to miss. One more time, head on over to hawthornelaw.net/trademark to get signed up for the notification list today. Now, a lot of people think that they can pick any old name for their business, and assuming if they've done a proper search that nobody else is using that name, then they can go ahead and file an application with the trademark office, and in a couple of months, they're going to get their registration. I mean, how hard can it be? Well, let me tell you, it is harder than you think. You want, when you're building your business, to create a trademark that is strong, meaning that trademark is going to be what the trademark office calls inherently distinctive. An inherently distinctive trademark is one that will quickly and clearly identify your business or brand, and by definition, no other business or brand, as the source of the goods and or services that your business is selling. And so the stronger that your trademark is, the more easily you can prevent others from using it without your permission. Now, on the other hand, if you have a weak trademark, or if you select a weak trademark, it can be difficult and costly for you to defend that trademark, because a weak or even a non-existent trademark does not have the same legal protections as stronger trademarks. So no, not all trademarks are created the same, which begs the question, what are the strong trademarks versus the weak trademarks, and what trademarks are more acceptable with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office versus trademarks that are less acceptable with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office? That's what we're going to be talking about today. The first thing you need to know, and this is kind of the foundational part of picking a trademark, is there are 5 main categories of trademarks that have been defined in the law. And they go from one spectrum is fanciful trademarks that are also arbitrary trademarks, suggestive trademarks, descriptive, and then the least acceptable trademark, and actually it's not considered a trademark at all, is generic trademarks. So let's go through the acceptable trademarks. These are the types of trademarks that you can actually get registered on the principal registry of the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. And there's 3 types of them: fanciful, arbitrary, and suggestive. And so we'll take them one at a time so you understand what we're talking about here. Now, fanciful trademarks, these are basically invented words. They only have a meaning in relation to the goods or services that you might be selling. So this is basically just a purely made-up word. So for example, Exxon is a made-up word that is for petroleum products, or Pepsi is a made-up word for soft drinks. So both of these are made-up words. They're fanciful trademarks. And if you are to develop a fanciful trademark, you're pretty much guaranteed that that name is going to register with the trademark office, because number one, if it truly is a made-up word, then chances are nobody else is using that word. And number two, it's completely arbitrary. It's completely brand new. And so it's going to have that inherent meaning for your goods and services. And there's really no reason for the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office examining attorney to reject that mark. So that's the first category. These are the strongest trademarks, and they're called fanciful trademarks. The second category of trademarks are called arbitrary trademarks. Now, arbitrary trademarks are actual words in the English language, or any other language really, that have no association with the underlying goods or services that you are selling. So I've used this example before. I'm going to use it again here because it's the perfect example for this is Apple computers. So if you think of the word Apple, obviously most people think, okay, we're talking about a fruit. So if you were running an apple orchard or an apple stand or an Apple store, not the computer store, but like a store that sells apples, and you tried to register that name Apple as your trademark for even the types of apples you grow, or just the name of your store in general, that's a trademark that's not going to be registerable because it's too descriptive or generic to what you're actually selling. But everyone's favorite computer company, Apple, has been, and I apologize to anyone who does not consider Apple to be their favorite computer company. I own Apple everything. If you don't already know that, I've got a MacBook, we've got MacBook Airs, we've got iPads, we've got iPhones, we've got the whole 9 yards. So, and I own Apple stock. So I love Apple. It has been a registered trademark for selling computers for quite some time now. And that's because Apple, when you're talking about Apple in relation to computers, is completely unique and completely arbitrary. So obviously, Apple Computers is not selling fruit, it is selling computers. So that's considered an arbitrary trademark. Now, the third category of acceptable trademarks, and this is the weakest of the acceptable trademarks, is what's considered a suggestive trademark. Now, these are, when you're talking about a suggestive trademark, you're talking about words that suggest some sort of quality of the goods or services that you might be selling, but they don't actually state that quality of the goods or services outright. And what do I mean by this? Well, the example that's given by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, which I think is a good one, is Coppertone. Now, everyone knows that Coppertone is a brand of sun tanning products that is used to tanning oils and things like that. Another example is Greyhound, as in terms of Greyhound buses for bus transportation. Both Coppertone and Greyhound give the impression that, in the case of Coppertone, that you're using a sunscreen that will make your skin shimmer like copper, even though that's probably not healthy in this day and age. Or Greyhound gives that impression that their buses are going to get you to where you need to go really, really fast. So those are suggestive marks because the name that is the trademark is suggestive of what the product or service is, but it doesn't actually say or describe what the product or service is. That's the lowest category of registrable trademarks that you can actually file with the trademark office. So when you're looking to file a trademark, you want to make sure it's either a fanciful name, in other words, it's a completely made up name, an arbitrary name, which is a word that means something else that you're applying it to your goods and services, or a suggestive name where the trademark that you're using is suggestive of what you're selling without actually describing what you're selling. All right, so now that we've covered the three types of or categories of acceptable, strong trademarks, let's talk about what are the unacceptable trademarks. And so there's two categories of what we would consider weak trademarks. The reason that they are weak is that they are difficult to protect against competitors, and basically they're not capable of federal registration. So these include descriptive marks, as we've already alluded to, and generic trademarks. So let's talk about these one at a time. A descriptive trademark is a trademark that merely describes some aspect of the goods or services that you're selling without actually identifying or distinguishing your brand as the source of those goods or services. So what will happen is if you attempt to register a descriptive trademark, you might be able to obtain registration on what's called the supplemental register. And I've talked about this in the past. I actually need to do a podcast episode on the differences between registering on the principal register and the supplemental register. So if you have a descriptive trademark, you can actually obtain registration on the supplemental register, and then after a period of time, it's usually about 5 years, you can reapply with that trademark to try and get it registered on the principal register. And this is because after 5 years, the trademark office will assume that your mark, if you've been using it continually in commerce, has gained what's called distinctiveness in the marketplace. Even though it was descriptive when it started, now you've kind of made this name for yourself with this trademark, and so now they are willing to allow you to register that trademark because it has acquired some inherent distinctiveness through its continued use in commerce over the course of those years. So some examples of descriptive trademarks, and these are actually cited by the USPTO on their website, are in terms of yogurt, you could say creamy. You can't register creamy restricted yogurt. Apple pie for a scent of potpourri, or bed and breakfast registry for a service that might provide lodging reservation services. Now, you might be wondering how descriptive and suggestive trademarks differ. And descriptive trademarks immediately give an idea or describe what the goods or services are, while suggestive trademarks just allude to the goods or services. They don't actually describe the goods or services. So this is a frequent area that is completely ripe for office actions, where the examining attorney will actually deny applications because the proposed trademark is what they call merely descriptive. And so we've actually responded to several office actions of this type where the examining attorney has initially denied the trademark because they said it was merely descriptive, and we've been able to overcome those denials. So that's an area where if your trademark is denied for that reason, you might want to reach out to a lawyer, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't register that trademark on the principal registry. It means you're going to have to overcome that office action, or you can elect to amend your application to register on the supplemental registry. Now, let's go back to our copper tone example from before to kind of allude to what this means. So again, and this is an example from the United States Patent and Trademark Office website. They use the term bronzer, like a sunscreen bronzer that's going to make you more bronze for suntan oil. That would be descriptive of an oil that helps bronze the skin and would not be capable of registration alone as a trademark for those goods. On the other hand, like we said before, copper tone is a suggestive registered trademark for suntanning products. Now, I get it. This is a completely subjective standard. You might have 10 different examining attorneys looking at a trademark application. You might have 5 examining attorneys say that one name in an application is suggestive, and the other 5 might say that it is descriptive. And it is. It's somewhat suggestive. There's standards in place and there's case law about this, but at the end of the day, it's almost a toss-up in some situations between whether a examining attorney will deem a name to be suggestive or descriptive. And so when I'm counseling my clients about this, it's really hard for me to say, whether a name is suggestive or descriptive, because it's really up to the attorney that's reviewing the application. And if they do come back and say that it's descriptive, then again, when I talk to my clients about this, they have the option of either amending to the supplemental register, usually, or we can do an office action. We can respond to that office action with a legal brief trying to argue why we believe it is actually a suggestive name. So the last category of names is generic trademarks. It's kind of a misnomer to say that this is a category of trademarks, because these aren't even trademarks. If you name your brand something generic, you're not even capable of you can't get a trademark for that name. You cannot register that name, because generic words are common everyday names for certain items. So if you're selling tires and you want to name your business the tire company, that is just a completely generic name. The name that you've chosen does not indicate the source of the goods. It cannot function as a trademark. So a generic trademark is not capable of federal registration, even on the supplemental registry. So another example of that would be if you named your business The Coffee Shop for a coffee shop, or e-ticket for computerized reservation and ticketing services. So these are names that just are unable to be trademarked at all. So if you decide to name your business something that is completely generic, it's just not going to work. Which begs the question, what type of trademark should you choose for your business? I know a lot of you are probably immediately going to say, oh, well, we need to go with the fanciful name, because that's the strongest trademark, which it is, and it's the easiest to register with the trademark office. But the problem with those fanciful names and even those arbitrary marks is that even though they're the strongest trademarks and they're the strongest brand names, they do require a lot of time and money to educate the public and your potential customers about your brand and what it is that you are actually selling. So if you do not have a budget to educate your potential client base of what you're selling, or your potential customers about what you're selling, then going with a fanciful or arbitrary mark might not be the best idea. On the other hand, suggestive marks, while they are the weakest of the trademarks that are available for registration on the principal registry, they are really great for new businesses, because they require a lot less investment of both time and money to educate your consumers. But again, on the other hand, they are likely sometimes to be denied because they can be considered merely descriptive. But if you can overcome that, or even go on the supplemental registry for 5 years and then reapply on the principal registry, they may be a great option for you and your business. So when I'm talking to my clients and they don't already have a name and they're trying to figure out what they should call their business, I typically am going to tell them to try and go with the suggestive mark first, because it is, number one, it's capable of federal registration, but on the other hand, it's also going to be suggestive about what they're selling, and it's going to be easier to educate their potential clients and customers about what it is that they're going to be doing with their business. So suggestive marks are a great trademark for new businesses. If you are interested in learning more about how to legally claim the rights to your brand, then you're going to want to schedule a free branding strategy call with me. That's right. For a limited time, I'm offering a free strategy call to talk with me about the branding for your online business and how to make sure it is legally protected. So if you'd like to learn more, head on over to hawthornelaw.net/TM-video. Once again, that's hawthornelaw.net/TM-video. On that landing page, we have lots of great information about the process of protecting your brand so that you don't have to worry about getting a cease and desist letter or being forced to rebrand your business at a great expense. Once again, that website is hawthornelaw.net/TM-video, and I look forward to talking with you soon. All right, all you Legal Gym listeners, now that you know more about the different types of trademarks you can pick for your business, you are ready to, as we call here, implement. Because if there's one thing we love to do here at the Legal Gym, it's to take massive action in your business. So if you haven't already, make sure you check out the show notes page for today's episode. You can get a rundown of all the links and resources and even a synopsis of all the different types of trademarks we talked about today by visiting hawthornelaw.net/28. That's hawthornelaw.net/28. That's going to be the home base for all of your legal and business tools and resources to help you start, build, and yes, legally protect your online business. And don't forget, we also have a brand new DIY trademark guide available for download on the website, and there's going to be a link on the show notes page. So thank you so much for listening today, and I look forward to talking with you in the very next episode. Have a great day.